They told me I was lucky to survive the crash. But luck felt cruel when I woke up to find my sister wearing the ring he once promised me. The man I loved had become my sister's fiancé. And yet, when he saw my eyes open for the first time in months, he fell to his knees. Not to her, but to me. The world came back to me in fragments. The sterile smell of antiseptic, the steady beeping of machines, and a dull, throbbing pain that lived somewhere deep inside my body. My eyelids felt like stone as I fought to open them, each breath dragging through my throat like sandpaper. For a moment, I didn't know where I was or how long I'd been there. Then I heard a voice. "She's waking up," someone whispered. It was faint, almost afraid. The next few minutes were a blur of bright lights and muffled noises. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. When the haze finally cleared, a doctor's face came into view. "Maya," he said gently, "you've been in an accident. You've been in a coma. For 6 months. 6 months." The words didn't make sense at first. Time had stopped for me, but the world, it seemed, had kept moving. My parents came running in, faces streaked with tears, clinging to my hands like they were afraid I'd vanish again. I smiled weakly, asking the only question that mattered. "Where's Ryan?" The pause was too long. My mother's eyes dropped to the floor. He's fine, sweetheart. He's just been... busy. The words stung in ways I couldn't explain. The days after that were slow. My body felt foreign, stiff, heavy, uncooperative. I had to learn how to move again, how to stand, how to live. Nurses came and went. My parents tried to keep me distracted with stories about home, about how my garden had withered but Dad promised to replant it when I came back. I smiled, nodded, pretended I was fine. But every night when the room went dark, my mind whispered the same question. Why hadn't Ryan come to see me? He used to say we were soulmates, that no matter what happened, he'd never leave me. He'd proposed under the stars, right before the accident. We'd been planning our wedding, laughing over cake flavors, arguing about guest lists. Everything had been so alive, so full, until that night, until the crash. It happened so fast. The headlights, the slick road, the sound of Ryan shouting my name as metal screamed and glass shattered. Then nothing. Just darkness. When I finally returned home after months of rehab, everything felt familiar yet wrong. The curtains had been changed, the furniture rearranged, but it was the emptiness that hurt most. Ryan's jacket no longer hung by the door, his coffee mug wasn't in the sink, his scent was gone. I told myself I'd call him, that maybe he hadn't come because he couldn't face seeing me like that. But before I could, my sister Emma showed up unannounced. Emma had always been beautiful, graceful, confident, with the kind of charm that drew everyone in. Growing up, she'd been my best friend. We'd shared secrets, dreams, heartbreaks. She was the one who'd helped me pick out my engagement dress, who'd teased Ryan and me about being disgustingly in love. But that day, when she walked into my room, she looked nervous. She hugged me tight, too tight, like she was trying to hide something. And then I saw it, the sparkle on her finger. It caught the light, and for a second my heart forgot how to beat. "Emma," I said slowly, eyes locked on the ring. That's my ring." She froze, her breath catching. "Maya, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I whispered, though I already knew. My chest felt hollow, as if someone had scooped the air out of me. "Ryan thought you weren't going to wake up," she said quickly, words tumbling over each other. "He was destroyed, Maya. He came to see you every day at first, but after months of no progress. He broke. We both did. It just happened." Her voice cracked, but I didn't hear the rest. My mind was spinning. "He thought you weren't going to wake up. So he moved." On? To my sister? I wanted to scream, to tear the 4 lines from my arm, to make the pain visible. But I just stared at her, my voice calm and deadly quiet. "You said you'd never date my exes. Not even in another lifetime." "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered, tears spilling down her face. "We didn't plan it. Please believe me." But I didn't believe her, not fully, because somewhere deep down a part of me remembered the way she used to look at him when she thought I wasn't watching. After she left, I sat there staring at the wall until the sun disappeared. My heart didn't break all at once. It cracked slowly, quietly, until it was nothing but dust. The next morning I asked for my discharge papers. I told the doctors I needed to go home. They hesitated, worried I was moving too fast, but I couldn't stay there any longer. I needed to see him, to look him in the eye and ask why. When I got home, he was already there, standing on the porch, talking softly to Emma. Their hands were intertwined, and my world stopped. He turned as if sensing me, and when his eyes met mine, time froze again. "Maya," he breathed, stepping forward, his voice raw. "Alive?" I interrupted bitterly. "Yeah. Surprise." Emma looked between us, panic flickering across her face. "Maya, please, you shouldn't." "Don't," I said quietly. "Not now." Ryan's mouth opened, but no words came out. The man who'd once promised forever looked like a stranger. I turned before he could say anything and went inside, closing the door behind me. The sound of the latch felt final. That night, I sat by my window, staring out at the dark street. I replayed every memory, his laugh, his touch, the way he'd once brushed a strand of hair from my face and whispered, "You're my always." Always had become never. But if there's one thing tragedy teaches you, it's that pain can either destroy you or rebuild you, and I refused to let it destroy me. So I began again. Physical therapy, long walks, sketching for hours, just to keep from screaming. I poured everything I couldn't say into my paintings, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the quiet rage. People started noticing my art. A small gallery offered to feature my work. Slowly I found a version of myself that wasn't defined by him. 3 months later, I was invited to an art charity gala. I hesitated, afraid of facing old faces, old ghosts, but I went anyway, determined to show that I'd survived, not just physically but emotionally. The venue was warm and filled with laughter. I was speaking to a curator when I felt the air shift, a familiar voice behind me. "Maya." I turned, and there he was, Ryan. He looked different, older, sadder. But his eyes, they still had that same pull. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said softly. "Why? Afraid I'd ruin your perfect night?" He flinched. "That's not fair. Neither is falling in love with someone else while I was fighting for my life," I said quietly. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. And then he said something that made my heart twist. "I never stopped loving you." Before I could respond, the room burst into applause, someone announcing the newly engaged couple. I didn't need to look. I already knew. I smiled, pretending my heart wasn't breaking all over again. I clapped, stood tall, and walked toward the exit. But as I stepped outside, I heard his voice call my name, desperate and trembling. "Maya, wait!" I stopped. He was standing there, tears in his eyes. "There's something you don't know," he said, voice shaking. "The night of the crash, I was driving. It was my fault. I told you to trust me, and I failed. I thought I'd killed you. I couldn't forgive myself. I didn't fall in love with Emma. I just tried to forget you. The night air was cold, cutting through me like glass. I wanted to hate him. But mostly I pitied him, for being weak, for running from guilt. Then you didn't just crash the car," I said quietly. "You crashed everything we were." I turned and walked away, his voice fading behind me. That night, for the first time, I didn't cry. Because the moment I left him standing there, I finally understood. Healing doesn't come from the people who hurt you. It comes from finding the strength to let them go. When he dropped to his knees that day, I didn't see the man I once loved. I saw the man who broke every promise he made. His words were trembling, desperate, but my silence spoke louder than his apology ever could. Because sometimes, love doesn't die in one moment. It fades, piece by piece, until you no longer recognize the heartbeat that once felt like home. Months had passed since that night at the charity gala, when Ryan confessed everything. The truth had cut deep, but strangely, it had also freed me. Knowing that the accident wasn't just fate, but his mistake, had given shape to my pain. It gave me something to release, not just something to endure. I poured myself into painting, working long hours at the studio. My therapist said my art carried emotion most people couldn't describe in words. grief in shades of blue, healing in soft gold. My body had healed almost completely now, but my heart, it was learning. Emma and Ryan's engagement had gone public weeks later. I saw the announcement in the newspaper by accident, a photo of them smiling, arms wrapped around each other. For a long time I just stared at the image. Then I folded the paper, put it away, and got back to work. Because no matter how much it hurt, I refused to let their story define mine anymore. My parents called often, trying to keep peace between us all. They said Emma was nervous about the wedding, that she hoped I would come. I told them I didn't want to cause a scene. But deep down I knew I needed to face it. Closure doesn't come from running. It comes from standing in front of what broke you and realizing it no longer has power. So when the invitation finally arrived, I didn't throw it away. I put it on my nightstand and stared at it for days. The white card was elegant, delicate, just like Emma. It read, "Together with their families, Emma Carter and Ryan Blake invite you to celebrate their wedding." My name wasn't on the guest list, but I didn't need it to be. I was family, whether they wanted me there or not. The morning of the wedding dawned gray and still, the kind of day that seemed to hold its breath. I stood before the mirror, smoothing my dress, a simple pale lavender piece I'd designed myself. My reflection stared back, calm and unfamiliar. I wasn't the same girl who'd begged for love. I wasn't the woman broken in a hospital bed. I was someone rebuilt, thread by thread. When I arrived at the vineyard where the ceremony was being held, laughter and music floated through the air. Rows of chairs lined up against fields of green, white petals scattered along the aisle. Everyone looked beautiful, expectant, perfect. And then I saw him. Ryan stood near the altar, adjusting his cufflinks nervously. His hair was slightly longer now, his jaw sharper, but the weight in his eyes was unmistakable. When he turned and our eyes met, time paused. His breath hitched visibly. For a second, the crowd faded, and it was just us, the ghost of what once was. Emma walked down the aisle moments later, radiant in lace and sunlight. She smiled at everyone, but her eyes darted nervously toward me. I gave her a small, reassuring nod. I wasn't there to destroy anything. I was there to finally let it all go. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke about love, about patience, about forgiveness. Every word felt heavy, like the universe was trying to remind me of what I'd already learned the hard way. When it came time for the vows, Ryan's voice trembled slightly. "I vow to cherish, to honor, and to love," he began, but as he spoke, his gaze drifted, not at Emma but at me. For a moment his voice faltered, the words catching in his throat. Emma followed his eyes, confusion flashing across her face. And then, when the officiant asked if anyone objected, the world seemed to hold its breath. Silence. Until Ryan dropped the script in his hands and whispered, "I can't do this." The crowd gasped. The officiant froze mid-sentence. Emma turned pale, her bouquet trembling in her hands. "Ryan, what are you saying?" He turned to her, anguish written all over his face. "I've tried. God knows I've tried. But I can't stand here and pretend. My heart isn't here, Emma. It's never been." He turned toward me, his eyes glassy, full of a desperate honesty that made my chest ache. "It's hers. It's always been hers." The whispers started immediately, people pulling out their phones, shocked murmurs spreading through the vineyard like wildfire. Emma's tears came fast, and she shook her head, stumbling backward. "You promised me," she cried, her voice cracking. "I promised her first," he said softly. And then he did the one thing I never thought I'd see again. He walked down the aisle, past the flowers, past the stairs, and stopped right in front of me. The air went still. He sank to his knees, right there in front of everyone, tears spilling freely now. "Maya," he whispered, voice breaking. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I swear, I never stopped loving you. Every day since that night I've wished I could change it. Please, let me make it right. Let me spend the rest of my life making it right." Every eye was on us, but I didn't see them. All I saw was the man who had once been my everything, and the woman I had fought so hard to become. My hands trembled as I reached out, not to touch him, but to lift his chin so he would look at me. "Ryan," I said softly, "do you know what it took to survive you? To wake up every morning and remind myself that breathing was still worth it?" He closed his eyes, pain flickering across his face. I forgive you, I continued, my voice steady. But forgiveness doesn't mean we can go back. You broke something that can't be repaired. I'm not that girl anymore, the one who waited for you to save her. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. You were the love that taught me loss, and she was the sister who taught me betrayal. But I've learned something from both of you. Love should never feel like begging for air. Slowly I stepped back. His hands fell away from mine as I turned toward the exit. Behind me I heard Emma sobbing, the crowd whispering, the officiant calling for calm. But I didn't look back. I walked down that aisle alone, the same one I was once supposed to walk as a bride, and this time, I reached the end without breaking. Outside, the sky had opened up, rain falling in soft sheets across the vineyard. I tilted my face to the sky, letting it wash away the last of the ache. The rain was cold, cleansing, almost kind. Later, I left town. I moved to the city, opened my own gallery, and started over completely. My art flourished, each canvas a story of survival, of rebirth. People said my paintings carried hope, that they made them feel seen. Maybe because they came from a heart that had learned the cost of loving wrong. Years later, when I saw Ryan again by chance at an exhibition, he looked different, older, quieter, at peace. He didn't try to speak to me, just smiled faintly across the room. And that was enough, because sometimes healing isn't about getting back what you lost. It's about finding yourself in the ruins and realizing you were always whole. The girl who once begged for love had found something stronger. Herself. And as I stood before my newest painting, titled, "The Day I Woke Up, I Finally Understood." Waking up wasn't just about surviving a crash. It was about waking up to my own worth. Because true healing begins the moment you stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself.